Welcome to this video for the course Game Programming. My name is Paul and today I'm going to create a simple console application as a starter for this course. You might wonder what a console application is. A console application is a program which has output to a simple text window and also input from the keyboard and not much more. You might also know it when you're a Windows user as a DOSBox, or if you use a Mac, you can start terminal and then you have a command window in which you can type commands and get output as in the form of text. The reason why we're starting with console applications is that console applications are much easier to create than, for instance, Windows applications. You don't have to use many other stuff that's there in packages to be used, and you can create your first program in a few minutes, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So I've started Visual Studio, and it's on the start page, and I'm going to create a new project. And I have this stupid message, so we'll just click it away. And you get a window for new project, and there's a few things here we need to pay attention to. So for instance, you always create a new project using templates, and there's many languages here, and you should take care that Visual C# is selected. And when you, for instance, take Android, you get different type of projects than when you create a Visual C# application. And here you see console application, and we are going to select it. Next, at the bottom of the window, there's a few important things also. For instance, first there's a name of the console application. You can see that I tried this out before because the number is 2. And secondly, there's a location for the files. And I would advise anybody to create a folder on your hard disk to hold all your Visual C# projects. And I've done this already. I've got in my documents, I've made a folder called Solutions Visual Studio. And this brings me to the last line here, because you can see there's not only a project name, but also a solution name. And solution is the general term for a group of projects in Visual Studio, and anything you create in Visual Studio is in a solution. So we're just going to make one project within this solution. So we'll keep the names the same. And also make sure this is checked, because you don't want your different projects to be all mixed up. So you have them in separate folders. So I'll just create one. And now we see the standard window for Visual Studio popping up. And there's a few screens here. First, there's my program here, which is in a namespace called Console Application 2. I will go into that a bit later on. But first, let's look at the interface in general. The main part of the space is occupied by a window that can contain your code. But there's also some other stuff, like here the Solution Explorer, and here you can see all the files that are part of your project. So there may be several C# files, which you can recognize by the CS. There's a configuration file, there's properties, there's nothing much in there right now. But you may also have, for instance, images or sprites for your game, and they all go here in the structure. There's also some properties window below here, and you can there's all kinds of properties here, some of which I don't even know myself, but for instance you can see here where your program is, and there's a third window here which is now just output, but you can change it to show your errors, etc. Yeah, well, you can manipulate these. So for instance, I can just drag this around and I can put it here at the top. That's not really nice, so I'll just move it back again. So you can play around with this, and I'm not going to deeply into this matter. There's lots of videos on the internet which discuss all the possibilities of Visual Studio and the interface in detail. So just Google it and find some if you want to learn more in detail about this interface. One thing that I'm going to mention, however, is that when you, for some reason, lose some windows, you can always get them back right here. For instance, here's my properties window or the Solution Explorer. So that's a quick access for all. So now let's turn to the code. You see that Visual Studio already put here some quite some stuff. For instance, there's a lot of using, which is a list of packages called namespaces that are standard used by programs you create in C#. For instance, there's a namespace system which contains all kinds of stuff that you will need in general. And we're going to use this one immediately because I'm going to create the most simple program that's always used as a starter program, which is a program that just prints hello world. So I'm going to use console, and console is the DOSBox, the terminal window, and you can see that this is a class and it creates a little text box, and it's in the namespace system. So what does this console have in its toolbox? Well, there's you can make, for instance, you can make the computer beep, but I can also write something into this DOSBox, into this console, and I'm going to use WriteLine. And then I'll put in some brackets, and I'm just going to print the text, hello world. And what you also see is that this Visual Studio gives tips to what's going on. So every instruction in C# should end in a semicolon. So when I leave it out, Visual Studio will notice after some time. And this holds also for typos in method names, like it takes a second and then it says console does not contain a definition for WriteLine, and I'm going to change it back. So let's just try this. Well, I hope you didn't miss it, but for a split second there was a little black window, and if you really looked good at the top, you could see there for an instant the text hello world. Why is this happening? Well, this is our program, print hello world, and Visual Studio does exactly that. It prints it and then the program's finished, so the window is cleared away. So to really look at and appreciate the results of the program, we'll have to make this thing stop for a moment. And I'm going to do that and use console again. And now I'm going to put in a method called readLine, which makes the program wait for me to type something. So I just get the prompt and then I can type something, and it will only continue when I finish. So this is really it's a fix for a problem that you can't see the output of your program if it terminates immediately. And now we will make it wait for us. So let's run it. And now we can see hello world. Also there's a blinking cursor, so I can type something if I want and press enter, and then the read line will complete, and because that's the last instruction in our program, the program will terminate. So this is a little trick to make your console applications really visible. Now, before we continue, let's look at the rest of this program, because now you can see there is something using here, but only this one is really used because we are doing something with the console. So it's printed more, more boldly than the rest of these imports, really. Further on, we have an own namespace. So a namespace is really like a collection of pieces of code called classes, and you can bundle some of these programs really together in a namespace. I'm not going into any detail right now, but normally you'll have namespaces for significant parts of your system. You might have a namespace for game rendering and a namespace for your enemies, for instance. Well, then there's a class, and everything you program in C# is in a class. And in this case, Visual Studio makes up the name program, which is quite appropriate for this program, so we'll just leave it that way. And the third thing that was already there when we started was this static void main string args, and we just put our lines in there. The point is that whenever you create a program, you have to make sure there's something to start your program. And when a program is started, you have to start somewhere, and that's always the method main. And it's void, so it doesn't yield any results. And it's static, that means it belongs to the class. And these words we are going into more detail into later on in later videos. But right now we are just using them to create our first program. The next thing we're going to do is whenever you make something bigger, you will want to put in your own methods. So I might create a method. I'm just going to create a method to hold this console.writeLine hello world, and I'm going to name this method say hello, obviously, and I'll just put in the brackets. So now it's there, and I'm going to move this line there. So whenever we are going to create something bigger, we want to have it in its separate method, and sometimes even more than one method all calling each other. And this is our first simple example. And we might want to call it like this. And now you see there's an error message, and it says it's something you're going to see more often in the beginning. An object reference is required for the non-static field program.sayHello. And you can see why this is true, because here's the word static, and here is the word static is absent, so it's obviously non-static. So I might try and correct it by doing this, and you see that this works. But in general, this is not the best way to do it, because here I'm looking ahead just a little bit. The static methods have to do with the class, and the non-static methods have to do with the objects. And for instance, if you have like a zombie game, then you will want to write your code and the general thing for some zombies only once, but you will have a lot of instances of a zombie in the game, because in most zombie games there's more than one zombie chasing you. And these zombies are the object, they are non-static, and the general program is the static part. And nearly everything to do has to do with individual zombies, so you don't want things to be static. And well, what we want to do is solve this, and And this is really a pattern I'm just doing right now in this video. That should be used in the first weeks of this course, so you can create console applications easily. And what we're going to do is, I'll say create a program instance. I have to type correctly, and I'm just going to call it P is new program. So now I've created an object instance of this class, and I'm going to call hello on this object. So now this program will run again. And you can see there it is. So why do we go through all this trouble? It's to avoid this problem with this static, this error message. And but it's also an easy way to separate this stuff that's only needed to run your program from the things you're really working at, like the methods in this program. Because the only thing you have to do is create this main. It's the same always. And then whatever you're trying to achieve is a method, and you call this method in this way. And using this scheme, we are going to create several programs in the following videos. There's one more thing I would like to discuss, because you might wonder about this read line. What if it reads something? Where does it go? Well, you might put in something like this. And so everything you type will be saved in a string. But and we'll be using that also. But since right now we are not interested in what's happening, what the user has typed, we only use this line to stop the program for a while. We don't need to do anything with the output of this read line, so we just leave it, and it will go nowhere. And that's no problem, because the program is at an end anyway. So this concludes the end of this first video. Thank you for watching.